Test 1, 2.
So we're going to start here in about 2 minutes, we think. So and we have some people joining us online. Boy, that's bright. Should we have Andrew do the prayer before? Yeah, okay. All right, so welcome everybody. I'm Annie Kluffner, and I'm the chair of the board. And I'm going to ask the other board members who are here to please stand up and wave. So there's Leah, and there's Spirit, and there's David, and there's David. And did I miss anyone? Oh, thank you, and Evelyn. So all board members and all happy to talk to you if you have questions at any time. And I'm going to bring up Andrea to do the opening prayer. She was just right there. She's okay. There you go. Thank you.
With jazz hands. Oh, I need to take a breath. I just ran down those stairs, so let's all do that for just a moment here. Let's pray. Creator God, we are gathered here today to help articulate your vision for us in this community and how we move forward from a practical and resource-based perspective. Help us have ears to hear. Help us engage in curious conversation. Help us bring our heart for this community into this conversation. With gratitude for all those who have offered their gifts to the putting together of today's materials, we give you thanks. We give you thanks for all those who have shown up because they care to, those who have shown up because this is a community that they love and serve, those who have shown up out of curiosity and just want to hear what's going on. We are so grateful. Guide us in the direction you would have us go. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And Alyssa, Alyssa's going to do the land acknowledgement for us and share some information.
Morning. We acknowledge that we are gathering today on Treaty 7 territory, the land of the Siksika-Sitipi, including the Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani First Nations, the Iahei Nakota, including the Bearspaw, Chiniki, and Goodstoney First Nations, the Tsuut'ina Nation, and the Otepemisiwak Métis government of the Métis Nation within Alberta District 5. We make this acknowledgement to recognize the rights of these nations, the ongoing injustices that they face, and the wisdom and knowledge that they carry. We acknowledge that as a church, we have caused harm to the land and its people, and we commit to continue working towards decolonization and right relations with the land and each other here in Treaty 7 and in the broader world. As part of this, at the end of March, Hillhurst, as well as other churches and regional councils of the United Church, will have an opportunity to vote on a proposal put forward by the National Indigenous Council of the United Church of Canada to create a separate autonomous Indigenous church within the United Church. Since this change will require a change to the structure of the United Church, a vote involving all churches and regional councils is required. It's called a remit process. Since it's expected that this proposed change will raise some questions, our Right Relations Circle will lead a discussion about this remit process after the 10:45 service on March 10th in the Heritage Room. We invite you to join that conversation. After the discussion, the Right Relations leaders will report back to the Hillhurst board and make a recommendation on how Hillhurst should vote on this remit. All are welcome to attend the discussion, And we encourage you to look for further details on this topic and some background information that will be coming through Hillhurst happenings in the coming weeks. Thanks.
And I'm sure we'll remind people that about March 10th in the upcoming weeks, so if people want to participate. Now, could we have the agenda slide? We did things slightly out of order, but we're fluid, right? We're fluid. So here's the agenda for today, and it's a pretty short agenda, in fact. I'm going to bring up John now to do a welcome. Or do you want me to do the agenda review first? Doesn't really matter. So after the we've done the first two pieces, and we'll have an adherence vote, just meaning that even people who are not members of Hillhurst, if you are in adherence, we typically start the meeting with a vote to allow adherents to vote, or we ask people if everyone is okay with that. The leadership update, in fact, is going to take place with the welcome. I take that back. This changed a little bit. We're going to have Barry come up. Oh, thanks, Barry, right in front of me, to give an update of where we are with staffing. So that will be an update because we are in this transition. Dave is going to get a finance update in terms of a review of 2023. And then he will present the budget for 2024. We'll give people some time to talk about the budget, and particularly a chance to ask yourselves and ask each other if you have any questions about the budget. So then we'll have a Q&A period, and then we'll have a vote to approve the budget. So that's essentially what our game plan is for today. Okay? Okay, so with that, I'll invite John up. I'll do that. Okay.
My update is very brief. I simply just want to acknowledge that as we come to this budget, it's been a tough year since September, as we had the resignation of Ann Yates LaBerge, and she moved on, still with us, was here this morning. And then 10 days, well, I guess last week for you, hearing about Andrea's resignation, effective 3 months out. So we're in a place of transition as we sort through who we are, what we need as we move forward, and we'll be keeping you posted on that. I want to thank the board who've been with us, because it's a bit of a challenge to take these initiatives on, hear people's goals and objectives, and then seek to live out that ministry. And then when it comes to an end, it shifts us, and we know we're in that bit of transition again, which we will, through God's grace, be supportive and open and listening to us all as we seek to do that. So that's just stating the obvious. This is normal in churches, a challenge in some sense when we have two key positions in a year, but we will be engaging you. We will be discerning what is needed for us as a church, and you will be the ones who will help us discern that in the coming weeks. So that's really all I want to say at this point, and invite you to hear today about the budget. We usually do this meeting now, and then in June we do sort of the people, what's going on in the church that we need to know about. So this is really about the approval of a budget. So it's kind of focused strictly on finance so that you can be clear about what our budget is and how we see it unfolding in the coming year. I want to thank Dave Hark, in particular, the Finance Committee, who've done the work on this and shared it with the board already. And so we are confident of the work that's been done to reflect that faithfully and accurately to you. So that's all I want to say, and I'll hand this back to Annie.
Great, thank you, thank you. All right, is the next vote for the vote, the adherence vote? Great. Okay, so again, all members, you have gone through the process of becoming a member, and adherents, you call Hillhurst United Church your home, are eligible to vote. So could I have a motion to approve this? Thank you, Robert, and seconded by Peter. Spirit, you can't see people. Robert, can I ask you your last name? Can I? McLaughlin. Robert McLaughlin and Peter Kelsch. we'll make sure we get it right. Okay, any questions or discussion? And Danielle, then, is there also a link for the people online? They can see it even though we can't. Okay, great. So the people online can also vote. Okay, so all in favor? Okay, all opposed? Seeing none. Online too. It looks good. Okay, so that motion passes. So thank you, everybody. And with that, I believe I will bring Barry up to, again, provide an update. Barry's been, if you haven't met Barry, please introduce yourself. I think we've been very fortunate to have Barry with us since Ann left, not filling Ann's shoes, but really helping us figure out and discern and envision what we need going forward from a staffing standpoint. So it's been really great to work with Barry.
Thank you, Annie. Well, as John said, the congregation has been living through a time of transition, and two features of congregational life are succession. How do we plan for people to come and take up positions in the life of the church, and transition, because people are always leaving, but at different times and for different reasons and so on and so forth. So as a matter of fact, this current state of reality for the Hillhurst United is not reason for anxiety, even though some people may feel a little bit anxious at times, and this is not surprising, because folks say, well, how will we possibly get along without, and you can fill in the blank, well, because congregations do, and they have ways of being able to handle this. And one of the things that is really important to underline at the moment is the tremendous job that the staff here at Hillhurst do and are doing. Anne had the foresight before she left to move some of the things that she was doing to different staff members. So like Danielle, as an example, has taken on a number of things that Anne was doing in the administration of the church, and is doing a bang-up job with it, for which you're grateful. So the staff here are doing an awesome job. And this means then that we don't have to rush about making decisions. So I suggested to the board Tuesday night that I think we're now at a time where we want to put an ad out there and see who applies, and do some evaluation of applications and persons and that kind of thing. I think at this stage what Hillhurst really needs, this is my opinion, but it's based on lots of conversations I've had with staff and members of the congregation, that what we really need at the moment is what I'm going to call a general manager of daily operations. Because there's lots of stuff that goes on in the operation of a church like this, all kinds of things that happen day to day, finance stuff, record stuff, administration, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But we also need to have some work done on what we might call the strategic side of congregational life. And there are ways that that can be accomplished without necessarily having to roll it into the operational piece of church life. And so, for instance, I think that John and the board need somebody who can work with them on strategic things like, who are we, where are we going, what's next for us, what are we going to do for other staffing, other clergy staffing, how does the beginning of the ministry at Living Spirit Center fit into all of this. But that work can be done by somebody that doesn't need to be on full-time staff. There are ways to accomplish that. So anyway, I think our next step is to put an ad out and see what kinds of responses we get to that, what kinds of qualifications people have. And I'm making a suggestion. So, the board can choose to do otherwise, obviously, but that's my reading of the situation at the moment about what we need. And in congregational life, I think that that's the best place to begin, what we need, and allow for opportunities for growth and development as time goes by. So, thanks, Annie.
And again, I would encourage people, if they want to talk more to Barry about this, please do. He's had many, many conversations with people in the congregation and staff members, and I think has a good understanding of what's happening here, and has also found that he's hearing the same thing in many different ways, which is encouraging, I think. So, thanks, Barry. Okay, so then that brings us to the finance update. Mr. Dave Harker, who loves the microphone.
Who doesn't love talking about finances? There you go, thanks. Yes, so we are going to be sharing with you guys today the 2023 year-end numbers. They haven't been reviewed. We don't have our final financial statements all ready to go, but we do have the gist of it here today to show you guys. And so if we can put up on screen. So this one shows 2023's budget and the actual on the left-hand side, and then 2024, which it'll be impossible, but please don't get ahead of yourselves. Don't get ahead of me there, but we'll talk about that as well. As you can see, we fell behind our funding targets a little bit in 2023, but in the end, it was very close. On the good side, we were... No. So let me just come backwards for a second. There are 15 printed copies. We didn't want to promote everybody taking a copy of the budget because it's going to be up on the screen. So total income at the end of last year was $874,500 and a little bit. So that was about $20,000 less than we had projected in the budget. And cost of goods sold, which makes up, in an accounting term, what would make up the variable or things that are costs related to things we did to make revenue, which is everything, but some of it's more, I guess, direct than others, was $67,000. So we were a little bit, we were about $10,000 more than we had expected. But on the good side, we did save some money in staffing, which is always our largest expense, and serves us so well with so many things in the church that need to be done and get done by the staff. And it's personally, it's a great thing for me to see what we can do with the amount of money that we are able to allocate. So in the end, we were $829,000 worth of expenses, and giving us at the end of the year a $22,000 deficit position. Now, nobody likes to be in a deficit, but I will say that in October, November, I personally was quite worried that we were going to be significantly further in debt or below income. The month of December, people were generous, as they always are, and we appreciate so much. So in the end, we did end up with a small deficit of $21,600, and that money comes out of our previous surpluses that we have in our operating fund. So that all worked really well. Can you go to the next slide? We're going to come back to this in a minute, but can you go to the next slide? Perfect. So the church operates primarily on a cash basis. And so the cash funds is an important, for me at least, an important measure of where we are and how we're doing. It's made up of a few cash-based funds and one non-cash fund, which is capital assets. We have this beautiful building. We have the land that it sits upon. It's got a value, not one that we hope to ever recognize, and so it sits there as a reflection for the accounting purposes, but in the cash world, you can see if you look at the December 2023 balance, we have $261,000 in our general or operating funds. So that is what the $21,000 deficit came out of there. We do have let's say $85,000, which we have the board and has allocated towards ongoing maintenance of the building. We have a renovation fund, which is still quite significant at $713,000, and then we do have $38,000 worth of money that has been raised and earmarked for refugee causes. So, end of the year, we have just about $1,100,000 worth of cash and or investments. So, it's hard to be unhappy at that situation, even though we did come in a little bit under budget. We do have a cushion here that we're working off of, and so we're quite excited about that. Does anybody have any questions about 2023? Hi. Yep. Yes.
But I believe that the church also moved towards a 7-day program throughout the year.
Yep.
So that makes sense. And there was also protocol as we were staffing. So when you look at how the church has managed the expenses with reduced donations, a I think it was $21,000 loss.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Yep. There you go. Perfect. We've been a 7-day-a-week church for a while, but at the same time, we keep adding more things to the days. And so one of the reasons why I love this congregation and the church, the people that are in it. So any other questions regarding? Can you go back one slide, please? Thanks. Any other questions for 2023 before I start talking about the budget? Perfect. Anybody online? No? Right on. Okay. Well, let me tell you about what the board and the staff are thinking about for 2024. So there's a few things that I'd like to sort of assumptions we've made as a group bringing forward this budget. And so the first is that we've made an assumption that we'll be able to encourage congregants and folks to increase their givings by about 5%, which would be pretty close to what, let's say, the cost of living has gone up. Some would say significantly more. Maybe it is. But so anyways, we're hoping for that. That'll work out to about a $35,000 increase in total. So in our minds, it seems like a reasonable target to work towards. There is facilities revenues. So whenever we rent out the church, either the annex or this building, or to the group downstairs in play, we get a little bit of revenue. Not our primary way of gaining revenue, but it does help keep the lights on and keep us moving forward in some areas. Anne was able to negotiate a, let me just get the number, 20% increase with play of their monthly rent. And this was in recognition of the fact that during the pandemic, we had reduced their rent so that when there was no students there, they were still able to continue to pay and have worked with them over the years. And so this increase is just bringing it back to a closer number for what it really costs to us. And then, so it was great that Anne was able to get that done in the back half of last year before she left. There's also some money that's been added to the budget for Living Spirit, so we're expanding into the Living Spirit space and spending time and dollars over there. And so we've put some money in there. It's not a giant amount, but we do want to recognize that people will see a value in that and want to help it grow and continue. So, all right, and then the last one is salaries. So we have budgeted for a 6% increase in the staff or the compensation for the staff. Now, there are some things that we're going to be able to save money on. So although we miss Anne and the many things she did for this congregation, her not being here has saved us a little bit of money, which is great, but it's also a sad time for me. Anyways, I really appreciated Anne's efforts and so forth. But as Barry was saying, we're looking at filling that position. We're hoping that happens soon. It's in the budget to start in May that we'll start paying or have a person that's here to help guide the ship or keep the ship running. Also, sadly, Andrea has announced that she's leaving. So after April, her compensation part will drop off, which is, again, bittersweet. But we have also put into the budget for us to bring in a second minister, a full-time minister, starting in the fall in September. And so those are the things that have been incorporated into the numbers that you can see. I've added a few more little notes up there, but in essence, we are projecting at this point, or the board has agreed that $939,600 is our target for contributions and money coming into the church. We are looking at the program ministries being 68,000. So we're not projecting a large increase in there. And then the next is, so that's 68,000 versus the 67 we spent last year, leaving us at $72,000 worth of surplus to handle administration, staffing, and all the other costs. So staffing is a big jump. You can see here that the staffing number of 762,000 is a 15% increase over what we spent in staffing in 2023. Seems hard to justify considering we do have some opportunities where we're not spending money, but I think it does recognize the efforts we're going to put into the Living Spirit and the fact that some of the staff have taken on more responsibilities with Anne's departure, and they're spending more time here, and we want to make sure that they're appropriately compensated so that they continue to do that work that they're doing. The other costs of general administration and facilities are pretty much status quo. We're hoping the United Church of Canada doesn't ask for more money from us for dues. How do you want to say that? You guys call it what you will. Anyways, that would put us at a total expenses of $926,000, which is almost $100,000 more than we spent in expenses this past year. So in the end, the budget, as we're presenting it today, is to have a $54,000 deficit. Lots of conversation about this. I'm a money guy. I don't like trying to spend savings just so we can operate for another year. But that said, there are some initiatives, there are some things that as a board that we want to support, and we would like to get your support on as well. And so as it stands, that's the number that we feel comfortable presenting to you. Yeah. So, ready for questions? No, I have one. Thanks, Andrea. Oh, it's not for me. Oh,
You can have two if you want.
no.
Yes.
You should put the motion on the table and then take questions.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right. Sorry, I forgot. John's really good at this. I'm not as good. So, if you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes to chat amongst yourselves. Just if you wouldn't mind spending a few minutes, just sort of giving your thoughts or seeing if any of your concerns might sit with someone else or things that you might want to bring up as questions. Just take 2-3 minutes. Okay, I'd like to bring it back in. John asked me to make a couple of specific points. One of the things that I will talk about is the 6% increase that we've put into staffing costs. That was a number that was given to us by the United Church of Canada, and it's something that all churches are dealing with this year. So that does make up, as you can see, there's a 15% increase in our staffing costs for the end in the budget, 15% over this past year. And also there's, let's say, $30,000, $40,000 worth of compensation that we've built into the budget here for Living Spirit specifically. So those are two things that we feel are, Living Spirit we feel is important, and we want to support that. And then there's the other stuff that's come across from the United Church. So there's a couple things we find tough to get away from. Hi. So I think, sorry, Dale, you can be first. But I think we want to put forth a motion. And so you want to do it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Could we have a motion to approve the 2024 budget? We just want to put this on the floor. Okay, Rosemary Wright, and seconded by David Swan. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to pass the 2024 budget, and now we'll take questions. Thanks, Dave.
Right. I don't get this whole thing, why they do it that way, but here we go.
Hi there. This is not so much a question, but just an observation that given all the changes we had last year and this year, I would suggest it's pretty difficult to set a budget. And I think you've set a reasonable budget. And, a budget is a budget. It's going to happen whatever happens, meaning things can change and things can be, it can do better or we can do worse. But anyway, you've done a great job of setting the budget together and setting at least what we want to do. And so I would just say that for the most part, this is going to be a changing year, no question. We got lots of stuff going on. And I congratulate the board for wrestling through it, because I spent many years doing budgeting in my corporate life, and it's not an easy thing. So I just want to say thank you for doing that.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. I mean, yeah, it was a lot of people to get here, and so yeah, lots of work by lots of folks. I see Larry over here, third row. If you wouldn't mind bringing him a microphone.
Dave, I have a question from Donna online.
Yeah.
Why do we present a deficit budget versus a break-even budget and increase contributions and or fundraising?
Okay, yep. So why a deficit budget? I think the easiest way to talk about that is this congregation has been really good at looking after and promoting a faith community the way that we want to do it. And I think that's where the costs generally come from. And so the revenues are less within our power, let's say. We rely on the congregants and the people that are giving the money to follow along and help us as a congregation reach where we're trying to get to. And so I think the deficit budget is the recognition that we do have a lot that's going on right now. We are trying to do more and influence the world around us in more ways. And so the deficit position is a recognition that, yeah, we're trying to do a lot, but it's what we want to do. Now, at some point, we may have to decide we don't want to spend some of the funds that are in here, but I think a deficit budget is realistic and reflective of where we are and the things that we have control over. So we really don't want to go into a deficit. And we are hoping that our fundraising activities bring in more than we've budgeted for, and we hope that our congregants grow so that there's more people giving, whether those are online or in person. And yeah, we're setting out there that this is what that might look like. Yeah, so that's why a deficit. Sorry, down front. Sorry, Larry. Yep.
Yeah, Larry Pierce. The question, I got two, I guess. One is on the Living Spirit. The facility costs there, are those things that this church carries, or is it through the United Church region?
Okay. Do you want to do both, or do you want to?
Okay, well, the second one is to do with the facility renovation and how that's going and the money is it projected to be more or less? Do we have any thought about that one as we discuss this budget?
Yeah. Okay, so first question would be facility costs at Living Spirit. The Living Spirit adventure has not gone the way that we had planned 3 years ago or 4 years ago when we started it. At that point, our expectation was we were going to take on that building and we were going to build the ministry out from that. Since the COVID got in the way of those plans and stymied us, the region has taken on the building, and they are now covering those costs. They are not charging us rent or anything else. So yeah, the region is looking after making sure that the heat and the lights are there and that critical maintenance items are addressed. So yeah, there's no additional cost to our congregation for that facility in this budget. The other question is around the renovation. It has been, so I've seen numbers from time to time, not maybe as often as I might choose, but I know you as a congregation have seen less. And so this is what I can tell you. Just like the Flames new arena that they're going to build, that has gone from, I think, $800 million to $1.4 million, it's gone up a lot. We've seen the same thing with our building, and it has forced us to look at it and make some different choices. That's why we're not specifically talking about it today, is because those conversations are still evolving. We've taken it, or John Bueller and Sheila Wappel have taken it to the architects and the project management group to try and find a way to accomplish some of what we want without having to accomplish all of it. So trying to find a way to break it into phases. At this point, and all this will become apparent in March, March the 10th, when the renovation team presents to this congregation, we're trying to find a way to finish the kitchen. So we used to have a kitchen, and then we took it apart. It seems like a lot of money if we were to have to spend $1 million to rebuild a kitchen. So, yeah, what we're trying to do is then say, okay, well, how much of this is kitchen? How much of this is, an improved heating system? How much of this is redoing the plumbing? How much of this is structural stuff that if we had a kitchen again, we might not need to do today? And so the initial conversations are really good. My hope and the project team's hope is that we'll be able to find a scaled back version that gives us a kitchen, lets us use the gym, and brings us back to a newer version of what we had for close to the amount of money that we already have raised and have in place. So if we're able to do that, that would be, I'd feel great. If it comes in that we need to raise a little bit more money, then we'll need to raise a little bit more money. It won't give us everything that we want, but it will give us what we've had and a better version of what we've had. So, yeah, this does not include any money being spent, although we hope to, any money being spent on or affecting the operating budget just from the work we're hoping to get done. So, sorry, one more, yep.
Mine's a three-part question, and maybe you can answer them separately.
Yeah.
One is, how are our givings this year compared to pre-COVID? Because a number of us are thinking that we've probably dropped in givings, and I'd just like your ballpark on that.
Yeah, so we haven't made it back to the same place that we were pre-COVID. We have lost congregants and so forth. In my mind, I have almost $1 million being raised the year, so what would that be, 2019, right before the 2020 COVID started. And we're getting closer, but yeah, it's still not quite where it was.
That's where I think we need to realistically look at the renovations as our first priority, and maintaining all the other budget expenses and modifying it, which is great to know that's in the works. But I really think we need to, as a congregation, totally reevaluate our commitment to Living Spirit. It was a lovely vision and dream pre-COVID when we had the numbers and the finances to do that. Now, it's taking staff time with less staff, and although the region is covering the expenses now, we need to know what those expenses are that they're covering, and I've heard that we need to assume those in 3 years. And I don't think we have the budget or the staff to continue with that wonderful vision that we had, and should maybe look at ending that maybe this summer or something like that. We can't keep living on dreams when our reality is quite unstable.
Yeah. Yeah. So some things that you'd put in there, yes. Our commitment from the region is that they will cover operating expenses for 2 more years after this year. So to 2026, I guess. And then it will be up to us to choose to continue with that or stop. I think as a group, we've had several conversations at the board level about the Living Spirit, and our belief is that this will become a self-funding operation. And so I totally understand that. Yep, there might come a time when we make a decision that it's not, and we aren't ready to assume an additional fiduciary cost for it. But today, our expectation is that we are going to bring much needed stuff to, much needed.
Yeah, can I just add one more thing?
You sure can.
Yeah, and just it's certainly a good question, and both the board and the staff and the steering committee, some of the steering committee members are here too. We've talked a lot about this in terms of the need to continue to evaluate this, right? And right now we don't know what this will look like, 6 months from now or a year from now. We have a very committed leader in William in this, as well as John and Andrea until she's not here. And we know that it's something we'll just need to evaluate and see what starts growing there and see what the resources are that are required and if it's realistic. And right now we don't know the answer to that, but we do believe it's worth giving it our best shot, so to speak.
Yeah, thanks. Yep, Robert.
Hi, Robert McLaughlin. I have, my question is not so much a question, it's more of it's for the board. I would like to see the board do something with, instead of hiring somebody to come in to do Ann's position, I think we have the people here already that could do that position. For instance, Danielle could fill Ann's position, and I think that would be smart because she knows our vision, she knows what we want, she's been here for 2 years. I've been here for 14 years and I've seen people come into that position, change things around. They want to paint, they want to do this, they want to do that. I don't think that's a viable position. I think it would be better to have somebody come in to hire a secretary or somebody who could do that position in a outreach capacity maybe, do the outreaches at the same time as there being a secretary, something we can fill in different categories. I think Danielle would be a fantastic position for Ann, and I'd just like the board to look at that before they consider hiring somebody from an outside source. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yep, thank you very much. No response. I know we have talked about lots of things, and Barry's done a lot of work to get us to a point where, we think we would like to be, but thank you, appreciate it.
With the Living Spirit, I just wondered what assumptions the vision for it is premised on, like to become self-supporting or whatever?
Yeah.
What are the assumptions underlying that?
William, any chance you want to talk about this? I could tell you some that we've got on, but William's really the best leader for this. So,
I would say that the assumptions are that we're going to, like Ann said, we're going to monitor this as we move forward. We have a plan that starts with what we're doing between now and June, which is starting worship there and maintaining another program we have going there, and seeing what sort of traction we get. I think beyond that, we have a plan to begin more programming, more community events in the fall, and we're going to continue to watch and see what sort of growth we get there. We haven't started a collection yet, but we will be doing that soon, and I'd think about this in terms of a series of sort of 6 month steps, where if it does turn out that we're not getting any purchase there, we're not getting any traction, we're going to reevaluate at every step along the way. So the assumptions are, we don't know how many people will come and be part of that congregation, but once we have a sense of who's coming and how we grow, we'll be able to track it as we move along. I'm not sure that answers your question, Bill,
I will say that as a board and a group, along with the Living Spirit folks, we've recognized that there is no other United Church sort of for a large space around the Living Spirit. And so that's a part of the reason why we entered into the conversations initially, is we know there's a congregation there, or we know that there's a community there, maybe not a congregation yet, but we would like to see if, my words, not anybody else's, our type of religion resonates with those people and brings them into the church and works with us to continue the mission that we've started on. So I think it's less about, that's not true. as much as it's a part about spreading the word, it's an effort as well to increase our giving base so that it's not, increase it. The more people that give, even if it's a little bit, helps us move forward in lots of initiatives. So those are kind of the things that are out there in our mind anyways. Gordon.
I sometimes have been able to read financial statements and sometimes I haven't. In this one, I suddenly realized that your little dotted box is not in line with the rest of the budget statement. That in fact, if you were to move 2024 next to 23 and make the notes beside, I wouldn't be trying to figure out what modest project increases had to do with $738,000. I think this is a statement that works really well on a screen where you can float things on top of each other, but I didn't read it that way, and it's taken me 20 minutes to figure out what you were doing here.
Sorry about that. I really thought about getting rid of the dotted area, talking numbers, but at the same time,
there are things that I don't understand what costs of goods sold mean in terms of a congregation. And I just, I'm looking at that and thinking most budget statements I read have income and expenses, and those words I understand, but costs of goods sold I don't quite get. So it's a question.
Okay, now?
I have other questions I want to ask. But.
Okay, this is super quick. So I'd say that our practice at showing the statements has been to try and distinguish between ministry costs and a church cost. So every time that we engage in a new type of ministry, there's costs that come along with that. And those are the costs that we've got in cost of goods sold, which is a completely brutal term, and I totally agree with you. There was a thought at one point when I had first started being the treasurer that it'd be great if I could break things down and say, this ministry, we brought in this much money and we spent this much money, so we should get rid of that ministry because it's a drag. And this one's good. We should build that one up because we're already getting more money. And so that didn't work out very well. But so that was the thinking behind, I know, the cost of goods sold. And that's kind of how we try to break it apart.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, good enough.
Yep.
I think you explained it even a bit better earlier when you said variable and fixed.
Yeah.
So as long as we undertake different ministries, there's a cost. If we don't do it, then the cost goes down.
Yeah.
Whereas your expenses are all fixed, whether you have these ministries or not. It's a fixed cost of of operating the building, of having the staff.
Yeah. In essence, the super simplest way I could say it is, if we have a funeral or a wedding, there's some immediate costs that it costs for us to put on that wedding. We get paid for it, and the payment is up in the contributions area, but the direct costs of hosting that event go into the ministry's costs. So,
okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Let me follow this up with a comment that as a supporter of the congregation, I'm not sure I can vote on this budget today without knowing what the costs of the renovation are. We are all taking out of the resources of the congregation for both the operating costs and the renovation costs. And I understand that the renovation is more of a capital cost than an operating cost, but it's all coming out of our pockets. And until we can look at the total draw and demand of that and stand up and say, yeah, I can vote for that, I'm not sure that it's wise for us to be voting on a budget today. And I'd be prepared to table this until we understand the full costs.
Yeah, thanks, Gord. Totally valid points and things that I've thought of as well. So, I don't know what to say about that. There is lots going on, and every dollar that this congregation gives forward goes someplace, and there's only so many dollars. So I appreciate it. I don't know how that might be accomplished, but I do appreciate that thought for sure.
An online question. If we added congregants' contributions and building project contributions together, would we be close to pre-COVID contributions?
So yeah, we've raised, so in the last probably 2 years, the first being the first year that we started working on renovation and looking for contributions, we raised close to $1 million. So that is a significant number. We raise a little bit. People give to the renovation, have been for a couple of years now. And so, yeah, we would probably be at those pre-COVID levels for sure. It's an interesting way of looking at it for sure. Yeah. Thanks for the question. Anybody else? This is the best budget meeting I've ever had. You guys are great.
We just, I don't know who it was, but somebody over here just.
Just point it at your mouth.
Right
kinda.
here? There we go. Okay, someone over here just asked if it was possible to vote or it was possible to table this. So I think we should deal with that before we call a vote on this.
Totally.
And I would be prepared to second whoever it was.
That was Gord. Perfect. So Gord has made a motion that he would like to see us defer this vote. Yes, go ahead.
My name is Gord Churchill, and I'm making a motion that we table the budget until such time as we have the full implications of the renovation as well.
I'll second that, and my name is Judith Alexander.
Thank you, Judith. Thanks, Gordon. Okay, so I'm just going to check in here. So March 10th, we are having a meeting about the renovation. And so my guess is that you're suggesting that we wait and vote until after March 10th. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. And so with this motion on the floor and a seconder, I could call the question now about supporting that motion. Is that right, Spirit? Oh yeah, any other comments about tabling the budget until after March 10th? Okay, thank you. Alyssa, I saw your hand go up first.
I'm just curious to ask the implications of paying for things or costs until March 10th, because I believe the year
we started January 1. It's an unusual practice really to pass a budget in February, but that's what this congregation does. So it doesn't really change anything because we've been operating this way. Yeah. Is that a fair statement, Dave? Yeah, right. Yeah, okay, thank you. I'm going to go ahead.
Is it going? Is it? Okay. Dave, I'm just wondering, we talk about the renovation budget. The renovation budget isn't in none of the renovations are included in this budget, are they?
No, they're not in this budget.
So this is basically our operating budget, and there's a separate budget for renovations.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm not sure why we're deferring our operating budget to another date unless somebody wants to see the renovation budget before we pass this one.
Yeah. And that'd be my suspicion as well. I talked to Gord a little bit before this. If it was a situation, I suppose, where we needed to raise another $100,000 to finish the renovation, that's $100,000 that might not come into the congregation to support the operations. And so I think that's the impetus. Peter.
On March 10th, there's another issue, the Right Relations Circle. Are those two meetings going to be at different times, or are they going to be conflicting?
Yeah. It sounds like a busy day, that's all I'm thinking. Hi. Dale?
Yeah, Dale Mastery. I agree with the person who said this is an operating budget. When I gave my money to the renovation budget, it had nothing to do with the money that I put into the church on a regular basis for operations. So I see the renovation as a totally separate issue. We don't wrap it into this. We didn't last year. We haven't this year. We're only stating this is money that's on hand because of the renovation. So I don't think it affects your operating budget, and I think we should vote on the operating budget today.
Thanks, Dale. Appreciate that. Oh.
Hi. I'm the last person who should be speaking at a finance discussion because it's definitely not one of my strengths. And because it's not one of my strengths, if I'm doing my own family budget or something, a deficit terrifies me. And while I understand the difference in the budgets between the renovation budget and this one, it feels to me like we had a vision and we had something we wanted to achieve, and we may be falling short on that and have to settle for less than what we envisioned because of cost. And to do that, to face kind of failure on one front and a deficit budget on the other, seems to me really too risky. We know that we may be asking people for money for the renovation just to achieve what we had envisioned and spent so long talking about. So I'm uncomfortable with the deficit.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I don't know how to respond to that, but yeah, totally. I understand where you're coming from. I would say that at home, I have more control over how much I'm going to spend and how much I'm going to make. And I think, absolutely, I agree with you. I mean, my father's not making any money anymore, but he's still spending it. So, but yes, I know exactly what you're saying. We're not in a position where we're trying to retire, and yeah, we want to keep going. So I appreciate that.
So I just wanted to say, Dave, so the board has been working with architects, and we were offered a price on what we were going to do. We said it was probably not possible. What can you do if we did A, B, and C, which is what they are presenting to us. So we don't have that information just yet. They're presenting it to us very soon. But what do we have already in the building fund?
Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so at the end of December in 2023, we have $713,600.
Okay, so $713,000 we have. They know that, and they're working toward that goal. We have not done any active fundraising since pre-COVID for this. We haven't been really able to talk about it and encourage people to see what's possible. So they are two separate funds, and the architects are aware of our desire and expectations. So I feel like they're two separate issues. One is how we're operating and what we're doing as a church, and the other is what we hope to do with the building. So we are continually working in conversation with them about what's possible with the building, with the funds that we have, without doing any recent fundraising for the building. So they are two separate issues, in my opinion.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Coe. I wanted this slide up, actually, because didn't you say, when you're looking at that very first column that says general, that we had $283,000 something dollars, and then we used some up as a deficit last year?
Yeah.
So there's a difference between a deficit and a debt, right? So we're not going further into debt or anything. We have the money there to use to fill the money that we need for the deficit, correct?
Yes.
So it's not as big a risk as it might have sounded like, because the money is there to be used because we had surpluses in previous years, correct?
Yes.
Thanks.
That is definitely one way of looking at it. I totally agree.
And yeah, recalling Terry Rock, many of you knew, who was a chair a few people before me, he would also say, we absolutely wouldn't present this budget year after year where we're suggesting we might be 51,000 short. But in some years, as Dave indicated and Barry indicated and John indicated, there's a lot of unknowns, there's a lot happening. the numbers at this point very much are our best guess. We would like to do a better job both in stewardship and increasing contributions, and hopefully possibly another fundraiser besides the blend dinner. But a lot of those are unknowns. And so it is unusual. We don't necessarily, we're not delighted about it. But we see it more as a one-off, not as something that it would be an ongoing thing. So I think Evelyn's perspective is helpful, but I also, Lee, I totally understand your point. But that's sort of the situation that we're in. So.
Thank you. Tag.
Yeah, I have a question to Larry here again.
Oh, yeah, okay. Hi, Larry.
Yeah, well, I guess a comment. I mean, I think after COVID and all the changes that have taken place with, we don't see as many people in the pews here in the congregation. I think personally, we're looking for money coming from the same people, that it probably is better to wait and see how the renovation costs come out, because I think we have to be careful about what's going to happen in the future. The next 3-5 years, how are things going to go? And those numbers are going to be with us for that, even longer, but certainly in those years.
Yeah.
That's my comment.
Yeah. I know there's more, sorry. I will say that I think scale is a bit working against us right now. I'm not sure that anybody works with $1 million budget when they're thinking about their home finances. We're really talking about a 6% deficit. So if you're making $100,000, we're talking about $6,000. We're not talking $6,000, we're talking $55,000. But in the scale of things, I think the number is a reasonable number to work towards, and I don't think it's unreasonable to think that we would still attain it. I will say we have between 500 and 600 individual donors that support this congregation. If 500 people gave $1 per week more, at the end of the year, that would be $26,000. So if everybody gave $2, $8 a month, that would cover the deficit that we are projecting. So I appreciate all these conversations. My opinion is I think we're still in a good place.
Thank you, Maureen Mitchell. Just a question about contributions, and I participate a lot on online Spiritual Nurture Book Club. Are we making any notice to people on our online ministry about the availability to make contributions? I know I don't want to lose people because that's an important part, but there's a lot of people that are not members of Hillhurst that participate in our online ministry. And I'm just asking, do we make some notice, like you can contribute like we have up on the board? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say in the past we've noticed that when we do make it a more conscious request, more money comes in. We're not talking thousands, it's not, but I think it does behoove us as a congregation and as leadership to find ways to make that ask without, coming across as, oh my goodness, we're in need, but also to recognize that, there is a need. So,
Sorry, can I just add to that, Dave? Maureen, we do have a specific invitation to people online, much like we have our screen up here. The online folk have specific information for them as well, although you're all able to contribute that way as well. And we're constantly asking how to make that invitation differently and better. But Anne would have had all the beautiful numbers for you, and I'm sorry we don't, but they do exist. So if you want them, let us know and we'll find them.
My name's Shannon, and
Shannon.
I was just thinking, like, everybody's talking about the risk that we're taking, and I always thought that one of our core values was risk, and everybody seems to be afraid to take the risk, so I'm a little confused. Thank you.
I totally understand. Everybody's I would just say everybody's idea of risk is a little bit different. And so, yeah, I understand. I'm with you. I think it's not an unreasonable risk that we're talking about here. It's risky, but I don't think it's unreasonable. Did you want to?
Well, I think that we should probably are there any more hands? I was just thinking we should probably call the question without it getting too much longer. Somebody in the back, it must be Peter, is nodding in the back. So is that okay? I don't see any other further questions. There was a lot of great comments, I thought, and as Dave said, he's having a great time up here. So good. It's been a good meeting. It's good to get this kind of interaction. So thank you. So if that's all right, we have a motion on the floor to postpone the vote until after March 10th. Logistically, I'm not sure what we will do in terms of doing that vote. So we'll have to talk about that and think about that. Maybe we would just do another after Sunday service and ask people to do a vote on another Sunday. So we'll have to figure that out. But now let's also have some help counting now. So the motion on the table is to postpone the vote to pass the budget for 2024 until after the March 10th meeting about the renovation. Okay, that's the motion on the floor. So I'm going to ask for people to vote in favor or against or abstain. And I'm going to ask you to hold your hands up until both Dave and I count. And I'm going to ask the people, my tech people, to also count the people who are voting online. Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, so if you are voting in favor to table the budget until after March 10th, please raise your hand. Okay. And how many? 7. So 9 total. And how many online? In favor? Right.
So we have 5, 6, 7, 7, 8. We have 1 yes. Is that what you're looking for? Yes. Yes. We have 1 yes.
So 10 in favor then. Okay. So those who are voting against the motion to not postpone the budget vote, please raise your hands. Okay. Okay, I have 17 here. 9. And 9. 26 plus online 10. So that's 36 against, okay, the motion. And then anybody who would like to abstain. Okay, I see none and none online. Okay, so that motion did not pass, okay. But I think we all absolutely fully understand the weight of the information that we will receive on March 10th and encourage everybody to attend that. Okay, so now the motion on the table is to pass the 2024 budget as approved, as presented, thank you. And yes, oh wait, it's already on the table, so it's okay. Yeah, okay, so now we're going to move to approve, or I'll ask you if you want to vote in favor of approving the 2024 budget. Okay, all in favor, please raise your hands. 21. 21 and 11, okay.
Anybody add?
That's 32, right? No problem.
While they're doing the yeses and nos, maybe we could do the nos in person, and then they'll get them both at the same time, so. No? No? Sorry.
How many yeses? Ish?
9 yeses.
Okay, so that's 41 in favor. Yeah. Okay, all those against? Okay. Okay, and anyone abstaining? Okay, 1, 2, 3. 3. Okay, any abstentions online, Andrea? Okay, so 3 abstentions. Okay, thank you all very much. Thank you for staying. And I believe that is our last item. I will just mention that if all the stars align, hopefully next Sunday, we will be launching ticket sales for the Blend Dinner, and we're very excited about this. And we haven't had a fundraiser since pre-COVID, so it's going to be a great way for people to reconnect and have fun and eat good food. So, yes, hopefully next Sunday, ticket sales will start. Yep. Operating budget, yeah. Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. Have a good Sunday.